station right now.
Yeah, he had kind of told me behind the scenes that he wasn't going to be able to say very much about that for a couple reasons. One, he wasn't sure what his jurisdiction was for information, and two, he doesn't know very much.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens going forward.
Yeah. Live on YouTube, by the way.
Woo!
Anytime the general manager of a professional sports team just quits in the middle of the year, it's generally not a good sign for that organization, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hashtag 100%.
You got to keep going.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Whatever.
I'm not really a good show filler.
The whole stadium deal thing with Atlanta probably pissed me off more than anything in the world. Like, the fact that they built that stadium at all, and you can drive through Atlanta and pass Turner Field, and it looks great, and you just have no idea what's going on. Like, what's going on? Like, why did we spend that much money? Why did we get rid of Jason Hayward? Like, why did we get rid of Craig Kimball? Why did we get rid of Tim Hudson? Why did we get rid of all these players that were good to spend money to build a stadium that we didn't need? It didn't make any sense.
Well, I don't know that those hands are all connected, but I understand your frustration.
Yeah.
It's not unshared.
There's definitely I got friends on both sides of that coin. Yeah, it's hard to say. Atlanta just never did anything with that area, and boy, I wish they would have, because that was a cool place to go, and it was easy enough to get to in Atlanta. But it's almost punitive. It felt like that. All right, well, I mean, it's been 20 years, and there's a baseball stadium, and a lot of places you don't want to be caught at night. So,
yes, that.
We'd rather have a bunch of bars that people go to before and after, and have a blah blah blah. So, but I, love the Ted.
Right, and I get it. I mean, and I've been down there, but I'm too smart. I could get over there to the stadium when I went. Like, I went on the bus, take the bus over there to the stadium. You take the bus back down there to the metro area.
Yeah,
5 points.
I've been down there multiple times.
Yeah.
I was frustrated. I'm like, why are we moving the Atlanta Braves out of Atlanta?
Well, and that's the point that I have no counterpoint to.
Yeah, I don't have anything there either. I can say this: the positive.
Like all the people that are 49ers fans, it's like the 49ers playing Santa Clara.
Yeah.
What's going on?
So I would say that's a much bigger change for San Francisco than what the Braves did. But yeah, it's still, you get used to a thing and then it changes. Like, I mean, so we built the new Arthur Dome, but it's like across the street. Actually, they're like, they share a parking lot now until we blow up the dome.
Yeah.
And how much did that cost Atlanta taxpayers?
The Arthur Dome.
The Arthur Dome's not going to cause Atlantans very many tax burdens. That's most of it's luxury.
And most of it's Arthur Blank.
And Arthur put up like $400 million of his own money.
Yeah, and that place is a place to be proud of. That is an
cool
amazing stadium. Whereas SunTrust, I think, is kind of you can call it like a cookie cutter new baseball stadium. I feel like it's not much better than if you were to renovate the TED a little better, but. Yeah, the new Arthur Dome is outrageous.
When they showed the plans for the stadium, it was like it included all the retail space leading up to the stadium, and that just annoyed me. It was like you guys are already planning on making money outside of the fact that you're just a baseball team. Like, it's just annoying to me. Like, dude, you're a baseball team. Like, try to be good at baseball. You're going to make more money.
Yeah.
Just, whatever. It's just the whole thing is just it just felt so forced. Like they were just like, oh, we're the Atlanta Braves, and we know we have a big fan base, and so we're just going to retail the crap out of this thing and just make a bunch of money off the fans. We're going to move the stadium, and we're going to sell a bunch of seat licenses, and we're just going to make a bunch more money.
Yeah, well, I don't know that the Braves even did the seat license thing outside of what they already had at the SunTrust section at Turner Field was the only seat licensing there. But, I guess, Tommy, I would say from my perspective, being here, and I didn't go to the stadium this year, but the city of Atlanta promised the Braves a lot of things that they never delivered on. And the reality is that Cobb County is baseball in Atlanta. The closest club team to where the stadium is is where Brian McCann, Jeff Francoeur, Brandon Phillips, keep on naming them. That's where they all played their travel ball in high school.
Mm.
Okay. So you're saying basically that the hardcore baseball buying ticket fan base is over there in Cobb County?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. They did the.
I've heard that it's an absolute nightmare to get in and out of too.
That's another thing. So the AJC has been running a smear campaign against the Braves ever since this idea came up. But the reality is, I know people that live there, and they said the traffic absolutely hasn't changed. There's construction over there that's making life miserable for everybody, but the Braves are not making it more miserable for traffic.
Yeah, the couple I went to, it was actually the first one that I went to was the first game at that stadium, and there was like no traffic. It was weird. It was like poltergeist. Like we knew that wasn't gonna keep happening, but I think everybody got there way early too, or whatever, and we had a good parking spot that let you get out quick. But anyway, with all that, let's do this
Start
podcast,
recording.
huh? Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Why not? Let's see. I'm streaming, so that's good. And now all I got to do is start recording and then start playing our thing.
So with a cell phone, he's not going to hear. It's going to be quiet for like 20 years.
Yeah,
seconds,
you might.
Right?
You might not hear us. You might hear us, Tommy. Just hang on the line, and we'll get back to you. You know how it works. You know how it is. So, you ready to go, Tommy?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, Sherwin, you ready?
Yes.
All right, we are recording now. Welcome, y'all!
Happy birthday, Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Woohoo! This is the Pregame Engineer Tailgate Mayor Racing Podcast, episode number 116. It's Thursday, October 10th, 2017. I'm Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace, and I'm joined in the PTM Podcast studio with Pregame Engineer Andrew Sherwin. What's up, dude?
Hey, man, we got lots of awesome stuff over here we're going to talk about in a little bit. We got our Hall of Fame guest on the line.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Tommy Joe Martin is going to join us tonight. And so we're pretty damn excited.
We're real excited. We got drop-ins with Ricky Mast. Holy crap, there's all kinds of stuff going on, y'all. Before we get to that, you know how it is. The PTM Podcast is sponsored by you. That's right. You go to patreon.com/PTM and join the What You Drinking Club for as little as $1 a month and get your free koozie and stickers. Best part is, every cent in 2017, we're donating to sponsoring drivers. So join the PTM Posse today and be a part of the sport you love. This week's show brought to you by our official sponsors at the $5 and up per month level. That is Catherine Kingston, Ashley Stang, Harry Balzania, Mark Wiley, Craig Smolders, Lori Sutton, Mick Rose, Robert Keplinger, Tony Salt, Colby McClam, Eric Kepner, Ryan Kiefer, Marion Levesque, Patrick Cleary, Aaron Bearden, Jeff Brown, and Chad Sterling. Holy cow, y'all are too awesome.
I'm so glad that you're the one that does that read, because I'm always on the spot here. I'm not loud enough when we start. It's just not. I'm not cut out for radio. I know that. Maybe just podcasting. I don't know.
Well, you said it. We want to welcome back to the show a PTM alum, and you know what? I'm going to say tonight, he's a PhD candidate of PTM University here, and tonight he's defending his thesis. It's Mr. Tommy Joe Martins. What's up, Tommy?
What's up, guys? That's probably a good way. That's a good way of putting it. Also, funny, I didn't know Bearden was a sponsor for you guys. I gotta get on this train. I gotta get on there and give you guys money.
Oh man, the driver sponsoring people would be a strange backwards thing.
By the way, given my last piece that I just wrote, that ought to tell you something. That I still feel like giving you guys money.
That's true. That was a hell of an accounting ledger, and you know what? Jeff Gluck is such a great dude. I'm just glad that's how all this came together, that your desire to create content, informative content, and his desire for independent media have kind of aligned. That's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, it was really Jeff was so cool in the whole process. I actually kind of reached out to him a little bit with the article. Before I got going with that, I told Jeff kind of what the idea was and had him look over it. And this was a couple of months ago. I mean, this has been, that thing that I wrote has been a couple of months in the works.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, it's kind of had a lot of people looking at it. Like Jeff was one of them. He was one of the early people there. Bob Pockris, I couldn't have done it without him. A lot of the info, like the nuts and bolts of the contract stuff with NASCAR, all the stuff involved with that standpoint of it, that was not me. that was me using other people's work, and so I referenced a lot of that, and there's just so much that went into it. But I'm happy with how it turned out, and the feedback on it has been really great. And I'm just really thankful that Jeff let me use his website and kind of like his credibility to lend to the article as well, because it probably went a lot further with him backing it up than it would have if I had just posted it by myself.
Yeah.
Can 100%.
Can you give the folks at least what is it called? Like, not the teaser, the taster. What is it called in journalism?
The Cliff Notes.
Not even Cliff Notes. I don't need a summary of it. I want to hear what the headline is about it.
Give us the steak portion.
Headline. This is what's weird, guys. How many times have I been on with you guys now? This is like number 6 that I've been on with you guys.
At least
so.
It feels like every time that I'm talking to you guys, it's like I'm talking about something that I wrote. If there's one thing that I've learned about the stuff that I write, is that as soon as I get it out there in the public, it's not mine anymore. It's kind of up to interpretation. And so you say, what's the Cliff Notes? To me, the Cliff Notes of it is NASCAR is not nearly as bad off as everybody says it is, right? There's plenty of money coming into the sport. We got the richest TV deal in the history of the sport, and everybody's getting a chunk of it. That I don't even want to say that the teams are getting too little of a chunk of it. I mean, that's up for debate. Maybe I'll save that for another day. But I do think the chunk that the teams are getting is not properly dispersed. I think that it is a little too top-heavy towards the Cup Series, and that because of that, the lower series are really struggling when it comes to small teams. And I think my team and the Truck Series as a whole is a really good example of that. So you look at the budgets for the Truck Series, which is one of the things that I talk about in the article there. The average Truck Series team, if they're trying to be competitive, is going to be upside down, even if they're doing a very scaled-down deal. They're going to be upside down over $250,000.
Wow.
In the current year without sponsorship. So I just feel like a changing mayor where we, whatever. I laugh because I've had some people yell at me, tell me that I'm a communist today, which is really funny in the last 24 hours. And I feel like I'm a pretty conservative guy when it comes to my political leaning affiliations here. I'd say I'm mostly conservative. But when it comes to sports, I am full-blown communist. Like, you're not a bigger communist than me, because I feel that sports are an even playing field. It's supposed to be even. Like, life is never fair and it's never even. But a sport is supposed to be even. That's why everybody has a salary cap in the NBA, and it's up to just spend the money the best way you can because it's all fair. It's kind of the same idea here with NASCAR. I just feel like the teams, we're all out there trying to put on a good show for the fans. You just cannot reasonably expect the same teams to get that big of a chunk of the pie and expect the total product to be good. It's just not going to be, and that's what is happening to the Truck Series this year. If you look at it, you got about probably 10 to 15 fully funded teams, and there is such a huge fall-off in speed from probably my team. My team is probably like the last one of the pretty good teams, I would say. We're right there on the border. We're right there around 15th. And you look behind us, and the speeds fall off a lot. Now, position-wise on the racetrack, like when you look at the standings, it's still just one spot to the team directly behind us, right? It's just one spot. But from a speed standpoint, it is a huge gap. I mean, we're talking a half a second to a full second gap. And then towards the really back of the field, which now it's become more obvious because the Truck Series is starting to short field a lot. Like Talladega is, I think, the first time we're actually going to start 32 trucks in a long time. the field is so thin at the back that actually we had 7 start park trucks at one of the last races we went to. I believe it was, oh gosh, where did we go? This is how many times I've been to the racetrack lately. Chicago, I believe. I think we had 7 start park trucks. I think it was 7.
Wow.
And that's embarrassing. And I think NASCAR would even say that's embarrassing.
Yeah.
And if you're looking at that and you go, okay, why is this happening? And I hear a lot of people complaining, right? I mean, that's the biggest thing. And look, I've been one of the guys complaining. But I think one of the biggest things I wanted to do in the article is try to offer some sort of a solution given the framework we're currently under. Okay, try to be realistic. Not everybody's going to go out and sign $1 million sponsor. It's not happening. It's just not happening anymore. So how do we take the money that we're already getting, how do we take the product we already have and make it better under the current system? Well, I just think the easiest thing is just redistribute the way we give out this television revenue a little bit better and a little more fair based on probably the ratings for the TV that we're currently getting.
Well, right on. Redistribution of wealth. Can't get no more Tommy Joe communist than that.
Yeah, that's what the NFL is.
Yeah.
But it is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the NFL is the most socialist American sports league. But you know what? I'm listening to what's happening right now, and they still have their ebbs and flows. Right now, there are 5 really good NFL football teams, and there are 7 or 8 really bad teams. And then there's a whole bunch of crap in the middle.
But the thing is, the Browns still turn a profit.
Wow.
True.
Yeah.
True story.
I was going to ask you, Sherwin, does the Browns count as like 3 of those?
Right.
Well,
The Browns turn a profit. And so how do you possibly expect, and here's the real question facing NASCAR, guys. Let's dive deep, right? I mean, that's what we're going to do.
We go deep here.
Hey, that's what Rich Tix wanted. He wanted us to spark you on a rant.
We're going to put on the scuba gear. Let's dive deep. So what NASCAR is really facing is not a problem with drivers. We got plenty of drivers. We got plenty of guys that want to ride and girls that want to ride. The problem we have is we don't have any owners. We don't have any owners. Who are the owners? Like, name a big new owner in the last 3 years. I'll wait.
In the last 3, no. I don't have anything for you there.
Yeah.
In the last 5. In the last 5.
Who would be a new? So let's forget about your time frame that you suggested, but
The last 10.
yeah. So that's. I mean, we're still coming up.
By the way, is still currently around. That's the other catch. Who's still around?
Well, yes. No, I love that point. That point to me sticks harder because we had a company come in from Austria and spend a crap load of money. Win 3 races, Red Bull?
Yeah.
And they said, you know what? This doesn't work for us. We're out.
How old is Furniture Row?
They've been around since 01.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's further.
Right. And how bad did they struggle for how long?
They struggled. I would say they were still struggling when Regan won, but yeah, I mean, for the first 10 years of their existence, they were. Let's call it 7. First 7 years of their existence, they were on the verge of being a start and park team week to week. They didn't.
Mm-hmm.
They would show up, but they didn't run every race.
Mm-hmm.
When Kenny Wallace and Joe Nemechek were driving their stuff.
Right. Yep.
Right. So again, think about big-time teams that are up contending for race wins that started in recent times. There's just not a lot of them. And if they do happen, then they generally have a very short lifespan. It's like a supernova, right? They come around, they spend a crap ton of money while they have funding, either personal funding or a big sponsor or some form of manufacturer help, and then they immediately fade away. They immediately go away. As soon as that money goes away or they decide they don't want to spend that much money anymore, they shut down the shop, they fire everybody, and the team's out of business.
Yeah, I think Stuart Haas... I mean,
13 of those that have happened.
Yeah, I think Haas might be one of the positive stories, but he has so much money that maybe it doesn't necessarily fit the discussion. And he's been around since 02 or 03.
Yeah, Michael Waltrip Racing,
98
but
maybe.
not around anymore. You'd mentioned Red Bull. What was Travis Pastrana running there? I mean, and these guys bring excitement.
Well, he was running for Roush.
Okay, all right. But these guys are bringing excitement, too. And to Tommy Joe's point, if you can't bring an owner and all that excitement and stuff, I mean, Red Bull has infinite money. They have all the money. And they couldn't.
They have every money.
Right. They're dropping guys out of balloons at 100,000 feet off the ground. They got money.
Even more with this is the fact that being a NASCAR owner ought to be totally awesome.
Yeah.
It ought to be like you don't think guys that own professional sports teams are like, hey, this is awesome? You don't think they're like, man, I own the Bulls. This is awesome. Yeah, it's awesome to own a professional sports team. Now I want you to think about this. Randy Moss decided with all of his money that he wanted to own a truck series team. You remember that?
I remember.
Hell yeah, dude.
Absolutely.
Jimmy Johnson drove it at Bristol.
And they had the hype. Again, the hype was there. Randy Moss owns a team? Holy crap, this is awesome.
Yeah, and it didn't work. Why? They burned through all the money, and the business model doesn't support the owner at all. At all. It basically says as soon as you don't have outside funding to make up the difference between the prize money that you're getting paid and what you're actually having to spend to be competitive, you're broke. As soon as you lose that extra funding, which in the Truck Series, for example, as I pointed out in my article, basically has to be over 100% of what you're getting paid. You basically have to double what you're getting paid to even have a chance to break even as a mid-level team.
Mm-hmm.
Which is pretty incredible. Okay? So as soon as you can't just dump $500,000 or $1 million or $2 million into it, you're upside down. And so who's signing up for that? Like Randy Moss in his retirement is going to spend all that money every year? Heck no, he's not. That's crazy. Now,
Right.
is he rich enough to do it? Yeah, but why would he?
Right,
But
right.
yet, that type of guy, Randy Moss, was brought in for a NASCAR team, and I'm using him as the example here. Because think about it. You have a minority, African-American, popular sports figure that would bring a lot of additional eyes to NASCAR. And not only that, he didn't buy in with a cup team. He bought in with a truck team.
Yep. Yep.
Starting off at the lowest level, at the lowest national series level. He did everything right. Brought in great people. They ran pretty good. Had Mike Skinner as a driver. Yet they're broke after like 3 years.
You know, that's the...
Nobody bats an eye. And so this has been going on for a long time. It's probably been wrong for a long time. But because 32 trucks keep showing up, it's not an issue, right? Well, the field's full. I don't see the problem. Well, the signs have been there. Maybe I'm just making it more obvious now with what I wrote. And look, I'm not taking credit for pointing all of this out. I'm really not. Because I think people inside the industry have known there's a problem. But I don't think there's been a lot of solutions getting tossed around either. It's like, oh, well, you know, that's racing. And I just don't think that is an acceptable answer to any of this. There has to be a solution. We have to be working towards something. And I think maybe the best situation is to take what we already have and make it more profitable to where you can entice an owner and you tell them, like, Sherman, this is no different than, and Rusty, this is no different than like if you want to start a business. And I told you, okay, guys, you're going to start a coffee shop. It's going to cost you $100,000 to start this coffee shop. This is going to be a nice coffee shop, by the way. It's going to cost you, all right? But you know that every year, revenue-wise, you're going to make a profit of $20,000. Profit.
Mm-hmm.
So you know that after 5 years, everything you make is profit. So that's a good thing, right? Like, you know this is a sustainable, profitable business.
Yep.
Well, why can't racing ownership, just like every other form of professional sports, why can't that be the same way for the owners? If you make it a profitable business model, do you know what they're going to try to do? They're going to try to go out and get the best people they can get. Every time. They're going to try to get the best driver in their truck or car. It doesn't matter that you're bringing sponsorship. They're going to try to get the best person. They're already making money. You see what I mean? And so now you wouldn't have stories like this, like Bubba Wallace. He wants a ride, but he's searching for sponsorship. If all the teams were profitable, do you think they would have to search for sponsorship? No, they would just go out and hire Bubba Wallace. because they know he's a good talent, and they know that if they went out and they ran well, they're going to attract sponsors.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting about this whole thing is that is what's being portrayed as what's currently happening, and it's not currently happening. What's currently happening is drivers are having to bring a lot of money to teams to be able to race. And teams are not pursuing sponsors. They're pursuing funding by recruiting drivers. They're just recruiting drivers that already have money.
Yeah, it makes sense.
It has nothing to do with your talent. Nothing to do with that at all. Nothing. Why is Landon Castle out of a ride? It's not because Landon Castle's bad. Everybody knows Landon Castle is good and has overachieved in probably 30th place equipment. He is overachieved by far. But Landon doesn't have a ride. Michael McDowell doesn't have a ride. Greg Biffle doesn't have a ride. Matt Kenseth's is about to be out of a ride. Carl Edwards doesn't have a ride. Bubba Wallace doesn't have a ride. I mean, do I just need to keep going? Like, is nobody noticing what's happening? It has nothing to do with how good you are. It only matters about the money. And because of the owners, that's why it matters. The owners aren't going to take a loss. So they're going to have to go get something to balance the checkbook. So we have to do something to make it better to be a team owner in NASCAR. And if you can make it to where, look, if you keep this thing small and you're smart about it, you're going to turn a profit. Well, that would be a game changer for the entire industry. And then the type of calls that I would be fielding for my team wouldn't be, hey, how much money do I have to bring to drive your truck next year? It would be, hey, I just won the ASA championship. Please give me a shot in your truck next year. And to me, the second version of that sounds way better.
Yeah. Absolutely. And, it's funny with, I shouldn't say it's funny, it's tragic. All the people we were naming, with Brad Keselowski closing up his shop, you start wondering how many of these people, because Brad Keselowski's still bringing in the money. Like, he's got money to spend, but he said, I ain't spending on that no more. And you start wondering with some of these other, especially truck owners, what's Kyle Busch going to do? What's all these other folks? People that I would think are bulletproof, that are closing up shop. It's pretty wild.
Well, look at Red Horse.
Yeah, and I mean huge with Red Horse. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But I'll say this, guys, because there's a little bit of framework to be put around what you're talking about. Okay, so Kyle Busch Motorsport, and this is where I might get myself in trouble, but here we go. Kyle Busch Motorsport is designed to fail under the current system. No different than Kevin Harvick Incorporated was designed to fail, right?
Yep.
When you hire that many people and you spend that much money all the time, all it takes is one domino to get pulled out, and then you're broke, right? So with Kevin Harvick Incorporated, that's what happened. They lose some sponsorship. Kevin Harvick didn't want to foot the bigger bill that's left there when sponsorship isn't there, and immediately the team shuts down. And Kyle Busch Motorsports is the exact same way. They're getting backing from Toyota. They're getting backing from other sponsors that Kyle has brought in. And it's not that they shouldn't be good. They should absolutely be good. They're spending a lot of money, and they got great people, great facilities, great trucks. Of course they're going to do good. But they're also spending probably double what the next team is spending out there.
Yeah.
Well, I think,
Okay.
Brad brought
when
that
you do
to
that, that's designed to fail. It's just designed to fail. But those teams are always going to shoot up, win, and then crash and burn, and they'll be gone in a day. That's just how it is. What I'm talking about is sustainability. So, like, perfect example, somebody like Mike Mittler, all right? Mittler Brothers Racing has been in the Truck Series for forever, literally since the Truck Series started, okay? Now, the Truck Series got so tough last year from so many big teams adding extra trucks and teams like mine showing up that Mike Mittler had to scale back to a part-time schedule. He had never done that ever in the history of Mittler Brothers. Now, to me, that's not fair. Like, Mike Mittler's team ought to be able to be profitable every year. Like, he's bought all this equipment. He's invested all this time, all this money. He's given guys rides. He actually gave Carl Edwards his first ride ever in NASCAR, I believe.
Oh, wow.
So this guy that's done everything the right way, and yet he's going broke and has to scale back and literally lease his number out to start park team to try to keep his number in the points. Like, that's just wrong. Like, those are the guys that ought to be around forever. You know what I mean? Like, once you make that initial investment of, all right, I'm going to spend $200, $300, $400, $500 and I'm going to buy all these trucks and all these motors and all this equipment, no different than any other business, it ought to make you some money back on that investment.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I mean, that's all there is to it. And if you did that, you would give owners more power. And if the owner has more power than they currently have, the situation is going to get better because you're going to see the best product on the field every time. People are going to be encouraged to race better, win more money, and by doing that, they're going to improve their team. They're going to attract sponsorship because, remember, sponsors would not be mandatory. It would be additional revenue. Remember, they're going to make money anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So now a sponsor walking up with $5 or $10,000, they don't just laugh them off and go, "Hey, that's not even close to how much money I need for this race." They go, "Oh man, $10,000, yeah, sure."
Yeah, that's a great point too, and it gets more sponsors in too that way, and more creative stuff, and I love that stuff, especially as me and Sherwin are donating this money that we, from the Patreon account this year to sponsoring drivers, and we start looking at folks, and it's like, oh well, who wants $1,000 or something, and they're like, well, that could maybe get a sticker for one race inside the car, maybe for a Legends team, and you're like, wow, okay, well, we'll just look over here at the at something else. So just maximum exposure for folks would be great.
Yeah, that gap has got to close. I mean, it's just that's all the point of the whole article is like, look, for as bad as I'm talking right now, and it sounds like I'm taking a negative tone with this whole thing, it's really not that bad. That's what's crazy, is that all this money is still there. It's not like it's disappeared. There. It might need to get moved around a little bit, but it's there. Like, NASCAR has done a phenomenal job of securing the amount of money that we have coming into the sport for a long period of time. And that is going to be the backbone of the sport for a long period of time. Forever. I'm telling you, that contract is huge. And what's crazy is, guys, the research that I've done, you would think, oh, well, the television ratings are down. Maybe that TV contract's going to drop when they have to renegotiate it. No, I'm hearing it might go up.
Wow, that would be incredible.
Competing for the broadcast rights. YouTube, Netflix, Amazon, all these other streaming services are going to be trying to dip their toes into live broadcast stuff.
Oh.
So NASCAR could potentially get an even bigger price for the next one. So all of this TV stuff and all of the broadcast rights, that is literally going to be the backbone of every professional sports organization forever, probably forever.
I think
not just NASCAR.
I think that's a great point, actually, in the next negotiation round of every sport, come to think of it. I mean, every sport.
Everybody just signed a pretty long deal within the last 3 years.
Yeah, and so what's YouTube going to bring to the table? If we had to watch NASCAR on YouTube, what would that look like? Well, that would be great. I have YouTube on every device that I own, including my TV.
How would it be any different than what we're doing right now?
Right.
I mean, it wouldn't, right? You could watch it now. Granted,
and the audience is wider too. All these people have been cutting cable. They all have YouTube. You know
what? You know what app comes with every iPhone?
Yeah.
YouTube.
Yeah,
it's already there.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's already on TVs. It's becoming normal on TVs, like internet-ready TVs and all that kind of stuff. So this is a real thing. This is a real projection into the future. What's the next TV contract look like? Nobody knows. But experts, a lot smarter than me when it comes to TV contracts, are predicting it to go up. And I was extremely surprised by this. I think I retweeted it when it happened, when I saw the news about that. Is that they're expecting it to increase substantially, just like everybody else has.
Well, that would be great for the sport and great for people to hear.
Yeah, it would be huge. And so that's why I'm saying if we could create a breakdown of the current TV rights that is better for everybody, for the tracks, the teams at all three of the National Series levels. If you could create that model to where the teams are profitable, they're able to go out and find the best drivers, the best crews, the best everything, where it has literally nothing to do with bringing money to the table. And look, you're never going to get rid of that. I had some people comment and say, oh, he's trying to get rid of paid drivers. No, I'm not. I'm not trying to get rid of that. I'm not. Because that's going to always be a thing. But it's not going to matter, right? If the team beside them is spending the same amount of money and they're profitable, right, and we're getting the same tires, we have the same engine, we have better people, or we have just as good of people, and we have a better driver than that other guy that's a paid driver, is it really going to matter?
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to matter. The better driver is going to win. And so all that's going to sort itself out. You can be a paying driver and be not very good, or you can be a paying driver and be really good. But what's going to stick is the people that are really good. See what I mean? To me, like, I think there's an image there, right, guys? Like, okay, I'm a NASCAR driver. I've been a NASCAR driver now for, good grief, going on 9 years of my life. I mean, I first came out now, I'm lying to you, I think I came out there 2009, so we're looking at 8 years. 8 years. I've been either competing or trying to compete in NASCAR. 8 years of my life. And I've raced a decent amount of races now. And I think there's like something attached to the fact that you say, all right, I'm a NASCAR driver. Like people go, man, that guy must be really good. Right? And I think everybody can look at the results sheet right now and go, man, there's probably some people out there that aren't very good. Right?
Yeah.
I think everybody knows that. And the reason they're out there is because of the financial model of this thing. And I think it just is a bad look for the whole sport. And everybody wants to be a NASCAR driver. That's fine. Not everybody can be. But that shouldn't come down to I'm rich or I have a sponsor so I can do it. It ought to come down to I'm a good driver. I got a shot. I took my shot, and I proved that I could. That's no different than every other sport. I mean, I just can't even imagine if I was watching the NBA. I have the NBA game on in the background here. If I was watching the NBA and 60% of the Bulls were made up of people that paid to be on the Bulls, would you think that the Bulls were the best team?
That's a great point. Yeah, yeah.
Hey, it's a great comparison.
Yeah.
I mean, so the Big Four have like a very different model. They've gone through a lot of exercises to get to where they are. I think owners and players are always at odds with each other on how the money works.
Yeah.
But they're more basketball, baseball, and football have all gone through this exercise more often and more constructively to figure out how everybody can make money.
Yeah, and I think it's a more open thing for various reasons, obviously. But yeah, I totally agree. Y'all be sure to check out Tommy Joe's article there, and
without a doubt,
and it goes through. I really liked the how it goes through the details of all those financials and stuff. I mean, it's just really cool, and it's cool to hear Tommy say that that's like a 2-month endeavor to go through all that. It shows you how much research and how much time went into everything there. With that, yep,
and it's not from a selfish standpoint here, fellas. It's easy for me to get picked out when I go, oh, the truck series ought to get more money. Like, well, duh, I'm an owner. Like, yeah, of course it ought to get more money. But unfortunately, I'm not the only one affected here. It's affecting a lot of people. And more than that, I think it's affecting a culture. Mm-hmm. And it's a culture that the kid at the local short track really believes that, and that dad of his really believes that if his son wins the Legends division and moves up to the late model division and wins it, that a NASCAR team is going to find his kid and somehow recruit him to drive the car. And that's just not true anymore. But I think it can be true. I think we can get to that if we make some changes. And I think that's when the sport is going to be the most successful. Whatever, you guys have talked to me for a long time. I've been on the show now 6 times now, I think. One thing you guys know about me is that I absolutely love NASCAR. This is all I think about all day, every day, of my entire life. This is it. So I want this thing to be as good as it can possibly be, and not just for me, but for everybody that comes after me. I just think we can do something to make it a little bit better, and that's what I really was trying to do, is just offer up a suggestion and see how everybody reacted to it. And so far, the reaction's been really cool.
That's excellent to hear too. I'll love to hear more about the reaction once it settles into the community a bit more and stuff. With that, it's Sherwin. It's episode number 16 or 116. We ought to talk about car number 16 before we get too crazy.
People
and deep.
expect us to do our regular segments.
Unbelievable, Biffle. How many? I would ask the PET and Posse this. How many races do you think Biffle had in the number 16 car? And we've talked about Biffle already without a ride right now. Tommy did.
Wait, so he was a rookie in 2002?
02.
Yeah.
So 504 races in the number 16 car with 19 wins. Is that, maybe we'll pose this to Tommy, is that like a Hall of Fame career, at least we'll call it so far, ... Tommy?
Is that a what now? Is that a career for a what?
Is that a Hall of Fame type of career for Greg Biffle?
How many wins did he have again?
19.
And he won championships as a truck driver and an Xfinity Series driver.
He had a truck champ. Yeah, if you look at that compared to like Dale Jr.'s career, you would sit there and go, boy, that's pretty similar.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, there's a Series champion and an Xfinity Series champion, almost 20 wins in the Cup Series. That's pretty good. I would say, okay, this is me in the Hall of Fame ballot room. Yeah, I'd probably say that is a Hall of Fame career.
Yeah.
Looking at everything, because clearly the Hall of Fame balloters have shown that they put value in the Truck Series and Xfinity Series. They do.
Which is cool.
So you have a guy that's won 2 out of 3 and then had a lot of success at the Cup level with a really long career. Yeah, I would say that's probably a Hall of Fame career.
Yeah, that's really cool.
It's got to be bumping up against whatever the mark is, for sure.
Yeah, and I like that they take into account Xfinity and trucks as well.
Well, particularly, and he did it not as a Cup driver, right?
Right.
I mean, and I'm not trying to go into that vein, but Boyer got his Xfinity championship after he was already a Cup driver. Same thing with Harvick.
So,
same thing with Carl. But Biffle did the natural progression way.
Mm-hmm.
Won in trucks, got an Xfinity car, won in Xfinity, got to Cup, won 19 races. That ain't too shabby.
Not shabby at all if you're just looking at stats there. Here's a few names. I loved looking up the stats for the 16 car because there's so many names that we've repeated on this show over and over and over again, which is really fun when Tim Flock and Bobby Allison, which preview here in a second. But names we haven't really discussed much. Ted Musgrave had 145 races in the 16. He's
Cup.
second to Biffle.
Wow.
In the Cup. Yeah, isn't that crazy? Kevin LePage, 79 races.
He can't merge at Talladega, where we're going this weekend.
And Wally Dallenbach Jr., we got to get in touch with him, see if he'll be on the show or something. Walter, 59 races in the number 16. As far as wins go, Darrell Derringer, Bobby Allison with 3 wins. Derringer had 5 wins. Bobby Allison, 3 wins. Is there a car that he has not won in?
That's crazy.
Glenn Wood, 3 wins.
That's a hell of a record for Glenn. 30% times out, you win the race.
10 races, 3 wins. Mark Donahue, 1 win. And Joe Weatherly, who we've talked about before, with 1 win. So really cool. Ted Musgrave, with 145 races in the Cup Series, number 16, was very surprising to me.
I never would have known.
Yeah. Tommy, was that something you were aware of?
That the 16 had won so many stinking races? No, I was not aware of that. That's a lot of wins.
Yeah. Oh, well, there's that too.
True.
I wonder Ryan Truex is doing so well this year. All you got to do is slap 16 on the side of your car, and all of a sudden you're up front.
That's a great point. With that,
it's been fun watching Ryan Truex too. That's been fun.
Absolutely, Sherwin. I think it's time finally to tear it down, huh?
Goodness.
And I don't even have the sound effect ready.
Have
so
the jet gun? That's
vroom,
okay.
vroom, or whatever. No, it's a thing that I have usually ready to go. Charlotte, we've been speaking to Jeff Gluck and talking highly of him, and I totally think that what he one of his points right before the playoffs started, before the playoffs started, was that Martin Truex Jr. does not have a cakewalk into the final race. It's not that he can just sit back on his laurel. You know, if there's one,
he does now.
If there's a couple little things that happen, blah blah blah. And this isn't to poop on Jeff Gluck, but I think Jeff Gluck was totally right, and Martin Truex Jr. is showing, okay, I know this, and I got to go out and do something about it. And he has.
I'll just win a
crap.
race in every segment.
Right. Tommy, how about the dominance that Martin Truex has been showing?
Very impressive. I mean, that 78 team has been so good. I mean, they have to be the favorite, right? I mean, going to the whole thing, they got to be the favorite.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the one that I have enjoyed watching, though, and you're going to like this, because I'm pretty sure you guys are fans.
Okay.
I like watching the 24.
Absolutely.
I like watching. I think he right now is kind of this sneaky guy nobody's talking about that is going to wind up in Homestead. I think he's going to be the guy that's going to be the fourth seed guy that could sneak up and maybe win this thing. He was showing a lot of speed the last few weeks. If you think about it, he's got 3 second-place finishes in the last 4 races.
That's unbelievable. And last week's race, I mean, it was like a devastating second place.
Yep.
And this week's race was a miraculous second place.
Hell yeah, second place.
hell yeah, second place. So, I mean, we keep talking about always the bridesmaid, never the bride kind of thing, but it could totally come down to okay, well, he's bridesmaiding all the way into the big dance and freaking rolls out with the bride there. And what really throws a wrench in that gear is Kyle Busch, who is not doing so well this round of the playoffs.
And those
so far,
PJ1 boogers didn't get along worth.
Yeah. So he, this could open the door for anybody if Kyle Busch isn't there at the at Homestead. Who knows?
Total fast, my friend. Ooh, right. This is like the total elite Corso move. It's not so fast. Everybody had 3 people penciled in the Homestead, no doubt. Right? Everybody had Truex, Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson. They're in no matter what.
Yeah.
Realize we're going to Talladega. Kyle Busch is 12 points above the cut line. Mm-hmm. That's all. Just 12 points. That's it. He is not safe at all.
Yep.
If he has an issue at Talladega, he is going to be on the outside looking in. And I'm not saying that they can't pull it off because the speed they've had all year is unreal. And Kyle Busch is, without a doubt, one of the top 3 drivers in all of NASCAR. It's like not even debatable. I think there's probably about 3 guys that are head and shoulders above everybody else right now. And to me, Kyle Busch is one of those 3 guys. He's good enough. The team's good enough. They're probably going to be there. But to say that they're safe and they've already made it in, they're not even close. They are in absolute danger of missing out.
Yeah.
Yep.
I totally agree. And despite the fact that he finally got himself a win at Kansas and got the monkey off his back, he doesn't like Kansas, and he's not been typically very good there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so you can't go out this weekend, have a bad weekend, and expect to just rescue all things playoffs at Kansas if you're Kyle Busch.
Yeah. So, Sherwin, we have several questions from the PTM posse.
We probably should get to those,
but
right?
We'll get to as many as we
skip one or two.
No, we'll get to as many as we can. Usually we get to answer all of them, and this week we're low on time here. So let's see. You know what? I like this one from Mark Wiley at _NASCAR nerd. He says, on the heels of your article on JeffGluck.com there, Tommy, if NASCAR offered you a job, would you take it?
Yes, just not right now.
I love it.
I know that my future beyond racing is to work for NASCAR. That's what I want to do, and I'll make that public. I want to work for NASCAR. I want to be one of the people involved at the organizational level of this thing for a long time to come. But I also think I'm a pretty good race car driver, and I want to do this for a long time. And when I'm ready to step away from that, when I'm ready to settle down and get away from the traveling so much and all that, I absolutely want to be involved with the organization. But right now, I'm happy doing what I'm doing.
I love it. Yeah,
Awesome.
I love that because I know that Tommy Joe can only make NASCAR better, and regardless of what happens, he will be in the ears of folks who who make the decisions that need to make the sport better.
It's
Thank you guys.
one of the things that makes it so easy, I think, for us to talk to you, Tommy, is that there are times when we disagree about stuff. We don't air those arguments out in public on this podcast, but they happen on Twitter from time to time. And there are things that you say that I'm like, I don't know if I really like that. But the reason why I think that we can have such a good time talking about NASCAR from this perspective is, A, you have a completely different perspective than we are, and B, you like math, and three, you're willing to put that aside in order to have a constructive discussion. I think that's, I don't know, we didn't have a segment in place right there for me to say that, but I think that's why it's so much fun to talk to you. Is that, you're passionate about what you're doing, we're passionate about what we're doing. You know a lot more about what the inner workings of the sport are, and yeah, absolutely. I want to see one day Tommy Joe Martin's, given Mike Helton's speech, or who's the Miller guy that was came under scrutiny this week because of the lug nut deal?
Oh yeah.
I want that. I want that to be somebody like Tommy Joe Martin's. I know that is personally and passionately invested in the sport.
Absolutely, yeah, and he comes on the PTM podcast.
Clearly, once every 6 to 8
It
weeks.
all started here from humble beginnings.
I love it. So let's let's gas it up then. Let's go to Talladega. Sherwin, what are you looking forward to this weekend?
Talking you into going. You know what? This whole Dale Jr. stuff is so cool. I think that's why I was kind of like,
last race, you gotta go. What?
I see. That's what I'm with you, Tommy. I'm trying. I'm lobbying. Last race at Talladega, the place that not Earnhardt didn't build it. It's not fair for us to say that. The Francis built it, but Talladega and Earnhardt are synonyms.
Mm-hmm.
And so for Dale Jr.'s last race there, it's going to be a great celebration. He's coming off his birthday today, as I hollered out in the beginning of the show. The man eats humble pie as eloquently as anyone that I've experienced that is a professional, very well paid athlete.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
without a doubt.
Yeah, he harkens to me like a Calvin Johnson. Just like has this superior skill set and awareness and position in his professional sport, and just does not cause any problems.
Right.
Julio Jones.
Right.
Is a synonym there too.
Right. I don't know what to say. I'm looking forward to. I think that's a story this weekend. Is Talladega is, in a way, Dale Jr. and to watch him do the last thing here is really cool. And who's going to be Talladega after Dale Jr.? What's that going to look like? Is it Brad Keselowski?
Now I just got goosebumps. Is anybody ever going to win 4 straight races at Talladega again?
That's good.
Just looking back, when we get asked that question, Tommy, about is Dale Earnhardt Jr. Hall of Fame, and I'm like, how could he not be?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
give me a break.
26 wins.
One of my favorite follows on Instagram is random NASCAR finishes.
Yeah,
if you guys aren't on it, and
Mm-hmm.
not follow. If you're not following random NASCAR finishes, you have got to follow random NASCAR finishes. And so I believe they posted a few of Dale Jr.'s wins at Talladega, and it was kind of in the early 2000s. You talk about electric crowd. I mean, electric. It's really remarkable watching it now in the modern time. Because think about it. You're talking about 15 years ago now, 2001, 2002 seasons. But oh my gosh, the crowd and the way that when he would take the lead there, what that crowd would look like coming down the front stretch. I mean, it looked like a mob at a concert or something. And so I'm wondering this being the last time he's going to be doing that. You know he's going to take the lead at some point. I'm not saying he's going to win the race. A lot of things can happen. A lot of things out of your control can happen. But you know he's probably going to get up front at some point, right?
Ooh.
What is the crowd going to be like when that happens? You know,
Yeah,
that
bonkers.
moment,
Chaos.
That maybe more than anything. It's just going to be so cool to see. And also, Dale Jr. is wearing a helmet visor or a helmet cam this weekend.
Hell yeah, he is.
I want to see the video of him coming down the front stretch and how the crowd looks from his perspective, because that's going to be a really cool moment.
Awesome.
You know what? I'm glad you said that. I just got goosebumps for the fourth time. I listened to his podcast today, and he said that he had personally requested to have that camera. And the reason why he had asked for it was really interesting. Obviously, he wants to pay homage to all the great Earnhardt fans that have been at Talladega for the last 30 years. But he said that having that camera means that everybody's going to get to see what I'm doing all the time. Like, somebody's going to get to see 100% of that footage, whether it's on television or just lives on NBC.com. And what it's going to force him to do is be aggressive. He's like, I'm going to have to be aggressive. I'm going to have to be Dale Earnhardt.
Yeah, to show him.
And show him that I'm here to win, and I'm going to make these moves. And exactly what you said, he didn't necessarily mention that so much, Tommy, but yeah, him coming off turn 4, rolling down the tri-oval, looking up into the stands, leading the race, and there's going to be 80,000 people up just raising almighty hell. Yeah, that's going to be a great experience for any NASCAR fan. I don't care if you like Dale Jr. or not.
Right.
You got to like that moment.
Right. So,
and those are the kind of moments that, to me, will get you a fan for the next 25 years.
That's a great point.
Somebody in that stand that's sitting there when those cars come by and they see that many people react like that towards a race, that's something you just never forget that. You know, that's a feeling that you can't explain to anybody unless they were there. And so that's why NASCAR, for everybody that says how bad NASCAR attendance is and blah, 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 and all the things, right? And look, I've been one of the naysayers at times. But those moments when there's a full grandstand and 40 cars come blasting by at 180 miles an hour, 200 miles an hour, and you hear that many people yelling, I mean, that's just such a visceral thing. It's never going to go away. It's never going out of style, ever. So I don't think NASCAR is ever going to have a ticket-selling problem, ever. Like, we might sell a little less at times. We might sell a little more at times. But people aren't going away when they feel a feeling like that, and I think we're definitely going to have something like that at Talladega.
Excellent. So with that, let's do some picks, man. Sherwin, what do you think? We'll start over here across the desk.
So I get to go first?
Go for it.
Yeah, well, so and continue the conversation about Dale Jr. Brad Keselowski's running a throwback to when he drove Junior Motorsports' number 88 white and blue Navy car. And Brad has proven to us over the last 4 years that he has a restrictor plate racing prowess that we may not have seen before, prior or after Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s, 4-in-a-row success. So I stumbled over that a little bit, but I'm picking Brad. I think Brad's got what it takes.
Yeah, great pick. Tommy, do you want to throw your hat in the ring here for somebody?
Gosh, Talladega is such a hard one to pick.
Right.
You got to pick somebody that's got speedway speed, right? So the Fords have shown that. I think for all the lament about how the Fords are kind of the car that's lagging behind a little bit this year. Chevy's had some success. Toyota's obviously dominating right now, especially on mile-and-a-half kind of downforce type tracks. The Fords have been really fast at speedways. And so here's my pick. Ryan Blaney.
Ooh, all right. I like it.
All right. Love it. And Ford.
So aggressive at the speedways. If you watch these last few races, Ryan, there's two guys that have been a factor. Now, look, they've gotten torn up some too, but they have been a factor. And that's Ryan Blaney. They have been a factor because of how aggressive they've been. I'm going Blaney. I'm going Ryan. I'm going YRB. He sees the Star Wars trailer.
Young Ryan Blaney.
He's going out. He's winning Talladega this weekend.
Are you a glass hole, Tommy? I love their podcast.
Not a glass hole. Even though I really like Kim Toon, I really like him. It's funny every time I listen to the clips and everything. I just have not picked up the podcast. That's something I got to start downloading. That's something I got to start listening to.
Cool. Yeah, they do a great job. It's fun. It is like the least amount of actual real NASCAR content of any of the professional podcasts that I listen to.
Yeah. So, Sherwin, here's the deal. I totally agree. I shouldn't say I agree with Tommy. Like, this was my thought was, all right, Ford is killing it at the Supers and won the last 4 races.
And we have the Robert Yates vibe.
Here at Dega. Here's what I'm going to – right. Yeah. So, here's my thoughts. There's a guy who has won a super speedway so far this year and as of last week now has nothing to lose and is running forward for the first time with his team. Mr. Kurt Busch could pull out up front here at Talladega this weekend.
Well, that's interesting.
I'm going to make the Kurt Busch call completely randomly other than, hey, we need a Ford and, hey, whatever there. Let's see. He has never won at Talladega.
His only plate win is the Daytona 500.
Right.
He has like 7 second-place finishes.
Here's the crazy thing. In 2003, he won the IROC race at Talladega.
Which is the same thing, basically, with less
exactly.
cars.
Exactly. So going for we'll essentially call it a newbie win here. But I like the Ford deal. I like that he's racing for whatever. It doesn't matter, and that he knows how to win at a restrictor plate race in 2017.
Yep, for sure.
So
I thought you were going to say Joey, but I like the Kurt pick.
Okay, all right. Well, Tommy, we're running up against it here. We appreciate you being on the show as always. We're going to have to have you back on again as always soon.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Whatever. Great being on as usual. I think we're 6 going on 7 now. We got to make it lucky number 7 next time.
That's right.
Touchdown.
And the PTM posse needs to decide, has he successful defended his PhD thesis? Do we award
You get thumbs
Mr.
up or thumbs
Tommy
down
Joe
from the Shark Tank crew?
a PhD from the PTM University here. No, man. I always appreciative. Always love having you on.
Did we ask him what he was drinking?
I don't know. Did we ask you?
Are you driving, Tommy? Or what?
I know I was drinking a Dos Equis. I was thinking about that while I was drinking. I said, you know what? I don't think you guys have asked me this yet.
Oh, man.
Dos Equis, great beer. I don't think so. We asked Rick; he was drinking water. I brought some Fairhope beer from Alabama because that's what we're doing now, and also found a spirit from Alabama called Clyde Mays Original Alabama style whiskey. Apparently, it used to be a moonshine back in those days. Now it's an aged whiskey.
We fixing to go deep
rapid
into
fire
that.
on that. Yeah, it's fixing to go hard.
All right, Tommy. We'll catch you next time, man. Appreciate you being on as always.
Yep. Thanks again, guys.
All right. Peace out. Bye.
Thanks, Tommy.
All right, y'all. Well, if you've stuck around this long, if you've had some fun, if you're enjoying yourself and everything, I know it's been it's almost been an hour, Sherwin. Tommy Joe is the man. It's so much fun having him on.
We start with the concept of being 30 to 35 minutes, and then it was 57.
We start with a panic, really.
Yeah.
Every show is we've only got 30 minutes of content, and then
like
suddenly
we said, okay, so we got an awesome drop-in guest coming up soon, and we talked about how we never close a show sheet. We create one. We never get through everything. So, we've got some guests that didn't come on, I guess, after our drop. But we still have to do, actually, Stranger's Thing, right?
Yeah, we'll get to it right after
we'll close with that. But
Yep.
Sorry to anybody who we didn't get to. Keep sending us stuff, though. We appreciate it.
Yeah. We'll get to it as quick as we can and everything. But with that, y'all, we're going to kick it over to Rusty and Sherwin from the recent past.
Yeah, back to the future.
Talking to Ricky Mast. If you're a Braves fan, or if you're a baseball fan, or if you're at NASCAR, everything. We had Rick Mast on, I believe.
Yeah, this is Rick Mast's
108.
kid.
So he's got all kinds of stuff, and he was disappointed even at the end. He's like, I got to come back and tell y'all all the NASCAR stories. It was a blast having him on. Here's the preview to our future episodes with Ricky Mast on. So hope y'all enjoy it and hang around with us, and we'll be back with Stranger Staying and closing it out, and talk to y'all soon. Here it comes.
Very pleased to welcome Ricky Mast to the show today, son of Rick Mast, who we had a few weeks ago, and has a very cool job working with the Atlanta Braves, which is near and dear to our heart. So, Ricky, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys. It's Braves and NASCAR. My two worlds are colliding. This is awesome.
Man, you're preaching to the choir here.
Right, no kidding.
That's for sure. Yeah.
All I can do is picture Earnhardt in that big billboard Atlanta Braves hat. It said
right.
Braves on it, like it is. It's
Yeah.
not a fit for today, but like I love seeing that picture.
Right.
Yeah, he was, I remember one time at Charlotte, and it would have been the Charlotte race we just had last weekend. It would have been in October. Some of those Braves, those Braves teams from the early 90s, which if you're a Braves fan, like I know you guys are, like I am.
Oh, yeah.
I'm fortunate that I work with the Braves, but I've always been a Braves fan since I was a kid. And a lot of that goes back to growing up in NASCAR with my dad when he first broke into the Cup Series in the early 90s. Of course, that's when, the Braves, the 14 straight division titles started in 91 with the worst to first team, obviously. And NASCAR, and I know it's a national sport, but it's the heart of it is here in the Southeast, and the Braves are a very regional team that kind of, most fans in the Southeast are Braves fans, I'd say. Most baseball fans are Braves fans. But in 91, Dad first breaks into the Cup Series full time. The Braves go worst to first, and, the Southeast, and really not just the Southeast, but because of TBS, the Braves were quote-unquote America's team, and particularly that team really – a lot of people became Braves fans because of that team and the ones that followed in the 90s, myself included. And a lot of people in the NASCAR garage area at that time were Braves fans. And the beautiful thing was, no matter where we were every weekend, it didn't matter if we were somewhere here in the Southeast, if we were in Michigan, Pocono, Watkins Glen, you name it, whatever hotel you're staying in, which, by the way, this is a little bit this is right before the $1 million motorhomes and all that kind of stuff came into it. We were pretty much at a Days Inn every weekend, as best I can remember, which was fine. They were fine. But whatever Days Inn or whatever hotel we were staying in, they had TBS, and you could watch the Braves. So, I specifically remember, I was a little kid, but I remember showing up. I want to say it was either Pocono or Michigan, but whichever place it was, I remember showing up to the track the next day, and everybody was talking about Otis Nixon making what we now know as the catch.
The catch, yes,
yeah,
sir.
buddy.
I remember specifically, I remember it like it was yesterday, being in that Skull Classic hauler in the back there, probably eating one of Big Joe's bologna sandwiches. But everybody was talking about that catch. Everybody was watching it at the hotel the night before at TBS. Earnhardt Sr. was a huge Braves fan. What I was going to allude to earlier was I remember him at a race in Charlotte walking around, I think it was before qualifying, wearing a Braves jacket on pit road before he went out because he was showing his support for the Braves. And the cool thing was there was kind of this connection, but through stuff like that, there became a connection between the Braves and NASCAR. I remember got to meet Jeff Blauser at Rockingham on pit road one time. Terry Pendleton would show up to the racetrack. Ned Yost, who longtime coach for the Braves,
famously.
And of course now he's won the World Series as the Royals manager a couple years back. So there's a strong connection that goes back a couple decades with the Braves and NASCAR, and has continued on, I'd say, through subsequent generations. Chipper Jones, for instance, is a huge NASCAR guy. He tweets about it. He tweets a lot of things that are pretty entertaining, but NASCAR is one of them. So, the Braves NASCAR connection is very strong in me. So it's good to be on a show that understands that.
Well, yeah. And just a brief synopsis and anthology of us. So Rusty and I are right around the same age. We've been Atlanta. We were Atlanta babies. We were Atlanta adults. We came off a couple of years there where we had a Georgia Tech basketball Final Four, a Georgia Tech football national championship, and Atlanta Braves go worst to first. And we were 9 or 10 years old. I'd say our launch into being sports fans was pretty spoiled.
No kidding.
I hear you.
Oh,
that is not too shabby. That is not too shabby at all. Well, for me, the same. I became a Braves fan, and they went worst to first, and then ended up winning the World Series in '95. I grew up in Virginia, lived in Virginia most of my life, so I've always been a Redskins fan. When I was a little kid, I mean, the first Redskins team, when I was first getting old enough to watch sports and care about it, was the '92 Super Bowl team that won. I didn't know about the 25 years of turmoil and heartbreak that would follow, but still. But yeah, it's kind of the same deal. You know, I was fortunate to my sports fandom started with these really not just great, but I would say somewhat, you know, iconic teams.
You know, I was in a bar not too long ago. Yeah, go figure. Rusty was in a bar. But I had gone to the restroom, and there above the urinal was a 91 roster with the baseball cards of all the guys. And I'm telling you, I'm sitting there like starting to get pumped right there, trying to use the restroom and just going, yeah. You've already mentioned Blauser and Pendleton, Otis Nixon, and you know, Sid Bream was on there, and
Sid,
Steve
David
Avery,
Treadwell, and then
Brian Hunter, David Justice,
drunk Mark Lemke.
You know, drunk Mark Lemke, and Charlie Lee Brandt was the one that really I was like, Charlie Lee Brandt
from the Royals,
yeah. So,
well, first of all, if somebody else came in the restroom and saw a guy standing at the urinal pumping his fist and yelling, yeah, that would be a scene of itself.
Right?
Yeah, no, it's funny.
That's Rusty in a nutshell.
It's the way you talk about those guys on those teams. I mean, to me, it's the same way. Those are like, they will always be heroes of mine. And it's not like you look at stats of some guys and think, well, what's so special about this guy? It's like, no, that was the guy. Like you mentioned, like, you know, Mark Lemke, Lemmer. I mean, when I see him walking around the stadium now, because he does, you know, do pregame, postgame, sometimes fills in on the Braves radio network. I mean, it's like he's always still kind of like, man, I can't believe I'm just walking around. One of my idols as a kid is just walking around here, you know. And it's guys like all those guys you mentioned. It's Alejandro Pena. You know, Francisco Cabrera getting the hit to send Sid Bream home in '92. I mean, it's all those guys are just you know, those sports teams and athletes that you first kind of, I don't know if fall in love with is the right term, but that you first start to idolize as a kid getting into sports. I mean, those to me are just, they're always your heroes. I mean, I'm in my 30s now, and those guys are still my heroes.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah, they are.
You know, I think it was Rafael Belliard. It was a couple years after that, and he had not had a home run in forever. And then he hit the ball something like 460 feet. It was something like
he's got one career homer, and
upper
it was
decker,
like Mike Stanton style.
It was outrageous. I remember that.
It's the cliche, the baseball cliche of swing hard in case you hit it. And you know, Rafael Belliard was quite a whiz with the glove. Not really known as a power hitter. That one career homer. If you're only going to hit one, you might as well make it count.
Well, yeah.
Right.
The picture I have in my mind of Rafael is that there's a line drive up on the second base side of short, and he jumps, and I'm pretty sure his torso is higher from the ground than he is tall.
That sounds accurate.
Very springy.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Well, we've gotten this far, and we didn't ask the question that we always ask every one of our guests. You got any beverage with you today? What you drinking?
All right, I'm going to be it's a little lame here. It's an old Virginia football cup here, and it's just water. Now, here's my excuse. Saturday,
it's Tuesday.
I'm back in Atlanta now. It's what was it, Tuesday? I went back home to Virginia this past weekend to visit the family. I hadn't seen them. The baseball season just ended for us. So I've been here working, so I hadn't gotten to see them in a few months. So I went home. My twin sisters just turned 21 last week. So they wanted to go to a honky tonk to celebrate for their 21st birthday.
Nice.
So my dad rented it's like a 15-person van or something like that. Ended up taking 10 of us, mixture of family and friends, and we went to a honky tonk as they had requested. This was Saturday night. I spent the entirety of Sunday from the moment I got up till the moment my head hit the pillow remembering why I don't spend all night at the honky tonk. I've got a receipt here. I paid a chunk of the bill that from what I've told, I maybe didn't even have to pay. It might have already been paid. I don't know. They kept putting all these. I'm just a plain beer drinker, and I've got friends who are big into craft beer, and I like craft beer. but when it comes down to it, I'm still just a regular old cheap American light beer kind of guy. So that's for the most part. I was sitting there with that, the honky tonk, doing fine. And then they started ordering these shots. And it's like, oh, we're all going to do shots. And then there was these little fruity shots. And I'm telling you, those are the ones that get you in trouble because they taste good and you can drink a bunch of them. And then the next day you remember, oh boy, this is not good.
Or you don't remember.
By the way,
Sugar
was a
is
designated
not
driver,
your
so
friend.
he wasn't participating. But just a funny story about he and my mom. If they are going to be somewhere and have a drink, Mom is the one who literally one time at dinner, I watched my mom order a Boilermaker.
Oh, wow.
And my dad look at the waitress with no irony, like this is really what he wanted. Mom's like, I'll have a Boilermaker. And Dad just looks at me and he goes, I'll have a Chubby Bunny. He literally orders the fruitiest drinks. So Mom's the beer drinker and Dad's the fruity drink.
Oh, that's fantastic.
That's nice.
I love it.
Anyways, I was hurt. I was a hurt little pup Sunday, so I am still I'm sticking with the water for now.
So we've been talking with you about Braves. We've been talking with you about NASCAR. Tell the folks what you're up to now, how you got into the Braves. Well, we know how you got into liking the Braves. How you got where you're at now?
Right. Well, I'm now. I work for MLB.com. They're my employer, but I work with the Braves here in Atlanta on behalf of MLB.com, and I'm like the luckiest guy in the world. I mean, I get to work for Major League Baseball, working with my favorite team, working in social media and with the digital marketing crew with the Braves, who are just it's one of these things where the people I work with and work for are the easiest going and most supportive, positive people that you could possibly want to work with and work for. So I've got that's the group of people I'm working with, and I'm getting to do it while working with my favorite sports team for what's been my favorite team my entire life. So mostly working in social media and a little bit of digital marketing here and there. It's kind of a long, winding road that landed me here. I wasn't always planning on trying to work with the Braves, but I was just fortunate that it worked out that way. Long story short, I was in a Major League Baseball contest a few years ago. It was called the MLB Fan Cave. I was fortunate enough to win a spot in that and got to work in New York City for the summer, doing a lot of things with Major League Baseball's social media team at that time. Through that, met some folks with the Braves, kind of a right place, right time situation. And a couple years ago, this job came open, and they reached out to me and said, we think you'd be good for this. And I, of course, jumped at it and moved from Virginia to Atlanta, and I've been here. Just finished my third season with the Braves.
Right on.
Awesome.
We've got a question from our friends at PETM Posse, Mr. Andrew Kantsian. And did I say it right this time?
Yes, you got it.
All right. For
You
the
got
first time ever. At KHANTZIAN, he says, I think, these questions come up a lot when we
He's a college student, so I think
cool.
he's kind of like...
Yeah. These questions come up a lot when we have somebody who's not necessarily part of the face of NASCAR here. And what are sort of the parallels between what you do and, the whole NASCAR side, things that are similar in both arenas?
Well, I think as far as the sports themselves go, I mean, they're both kind of, I think they're kind of, and it's part of what I've always loved about both of them is they're both kind of a marathon sport. It's not we're just going to be, the season lasts just a few months or that sort of thing. I mean, it's really, but I mean, NASCAR starts up in February, goes till November. Really, Major League Baseball, spring training, it starts in February, and by the conclusion of the postseason, it's almost to November. It's one of those things where there's always something going on, and the season lasts for a long time. And if you're a diehard fan of it, it's great because you're constantly getting something new to consume with it. Certainly there's differences, but I think that the wide range of personalities that it brings together, that each sport brings together, that's a pretty interesting thing, I'd say, especially NASCAR in recent years with, the different types of personalities that have come into the sport. It's kind of a fun thing. It's funny it's fun for me watching NASCAR now. I'm starting to find myself, I guess maybe it's because I'm in the social media world, like I'm really kind of drawn to some of these younger guys that are good on social media. I love Ryan Blaney. First of all, he just comes across as an authentic guy. I've never met him. love Chase Elliott. I have to there for a couple reasons. First, Dad and Bill Elliott, Chase's dad, have been friends for a long time. Even though it makes me feel a little old seeing Chase now, because I literally remember him being pushed around in a stroller at the racetrack, and that's no joke. But Chase is a diehard Braves fan. I mean, even on his Twitter bio, his location is listed as Braves country, or at least it was last time I looked.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep.
Yeah, he came down and visited SunTrust. Of course, the Braves have a brand new ballpark just opened this year. I actually live right next door to it. Chase came down and visited, and it was so cool to walk around with him for the day and just watch him, because he legitimately is a fan, and he was just so happy to be here. And got to meet Dansby Swanson. You could tell cool. he was pumped. And then not too long after that, Ty Dillon, the Dillon brothers are big Braves fans. Ty in particular, same deal there. It was just cool to follow him around. He was just tickled pink to be here. And of course, his buddy Tim Duggar, a country singer, was here too, and sort of got to be buddies with him. And he's a diehard Braves fan. So again, drawing back those parallels, I mean, that's a lot of similarities between the two.
Do you ever have time to go to any races? What was the last one?
The last one would have been Martinsville. Let's see, the spring Martinsville race in 2016. I didn't get a chance to go to any this year, but I did get to go to Martinsville last year with my dad and one of my sisters. I've been thinking about hopping over to Talladega this weekend. I've got some buddies that work with the Braves who've rented an RV and are going to be in the infield all weekend. So I'm kind of thinking maybe I should go over there and crash with them for a little bit. Haven't been to Talladega in a long time. I've never been as an adult, so I feel like that's one of those like bucket list things. You got to go to Talladega at least once and party, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Whatever kitchen pass you got to get to, I would say pull that trigger.
Well, it's my ambition tonight, Ricky, to convince Rusty that we need to go. Not for the whole weekend, but just for Sunday.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I mean, listen, it's Junior's last Talladega race. That alone is worth going, I'd say. But it's always, I mean, even as a kid, there's things that I didn't really understand what I was seeing at the time, but I now as an adult understand what happens in that infield. It's quite a fun experience. I gather it's quite
right. You don't really know.
We had fun, even though
deflect.
Yeah, even though it was the flood race that we went to at Talladega, we still had a blast. Holy cow! Do you ever have to like tame your fandom as a Braves fan since you're working for MLB, or is it just pretty much, hey, I get to run the social media for the Braves and all that, or is there times where you gotta like, all right, well, I guess I gotta put this out there?
I've had to, because I work in the press box during the game. It took a couple games when I first started the job to realize like you can't like pump your fist or anything. I remember watching, I think it was Andrelton Simmons or somebody like that turned a double play and it was in a crucial spot, and I just instinctively like pumped my fist a little bit, and then I kind of caught myself looking around like, oh wait, this is the press box. That's you can't do that here. So I learned pretty quickly not to do that, but I'm still just during home games. I can't physically express it, but I'm still very much a Braves fan, and the better the Braves do, the better it is for my job too. So, only at home games in the press box have I had to limit it a little bit, but it doesn't mean that inside I'm not still as diehard as I've ever been.
Maybe you just need to hang out with the radio guys a little bit. I know that you get into it.
Yeah. Well, some of those radio guys are my some of the pregame, postgame guys are buddies of mine, and we certainly enjoy hanging out. So it's that's not a bad idea. I like that.
One last question for it. Sorry, I saw your cup was a Virginia football cup. So Georgia Tech in Virginia, we got a game going on the 4th of November. What's that? What's your preview there? How you feeling?
Virginia football is the fact that they've already managed to win 4 games this year. I'm already just happy enough with that. I mean, they literally already doubled their win total from last year. So, I'm good either way. I'm not going to be too upset if they drop that one. I am very much. I try to be a reasonable sports fan here, to where if I'm seeing improvement from year to year, Sometimes obviously you want it to be as much as possible, but if we're only 5 games in and we've already won twice as much as last year, okay. 2 away from – I'm not even trying to think too much about the fact that they're only 2 away from being eligible for a bowl, because I know if I think too much about that, then I'll drive myself crazy. So I'm just taking it easy with Virginia football. And plus grew up a Virginia fan. I've got twin sisters, like I said. One goes to Virginia, and then the other goes to James Madison, which is my alma mater, my mom's alma mater.
Oh, cool.
And so they're the number 1AA team. By the way, I still say 1AA because that football bowl subdivision, football champion subdivision stuff is just like, come on, could we just have sat down and come up with more? Let's come up with the most unusable, drawn out names we can. So, and actually, College Game Day is going to be at James Madison this weekend, so that should be fun. So I've got JMU, they're the number 1AA team. Virginia is steadily on the rise, and Virginia basketball is right around the corner, which, they're usually pretty good. So, I will say this. The last I've been to one Georgia Tech game, and that was when Virginia basketball came here a year or two ago. Virginia should have blown Georgia Tech's doors off, and Virginia got knocked out of the building that day. So the one time I've gotten to see our teams in person down here match up, your side definitely came out victorious.
Well, one thing me and Sherwin have learned with Georgia Tech sports is that we do not talk any crap before a game. And we don't talk crap with 3 minutes left in the fourth quarter up by 2 touchdowns.
No, I hear you. Yeah. Listen, I watched Virginia basketball in the Elite Eight 2 years ago blow a 15-point lead to Syracuse with just a couple minutes left. It is just never over until it's over with some of these teams. So,
well, come to the game, come to the Virginia game, and come see us.
Sure,
I can do that. Yeah, that'd be fun.
That sounds like fun. So, with that, it's been we're about time here. It flies by for me sitting here reminiscing about Braves baseball.
No way, it's been almost 25 minutes.
Yeah, I know it. So, with that, Ricky, why don't you tell the folks where they can find you and what you're up to?
Yeah, you can. If you want, you can follow my personal Twitter. It's just at Ricky Mast. I tweet a lot of Bobby Cox memes and occasionally bad jokes. Same on Instagram at Ricky Mast. Again, that's just my personal life and silly stuff. But of course, follow the Braves if you're not a baseball fan. Now the Braves aren't in the postseason right now, but we've got a great postseason going on. So maybe check out some of those games. But once all that's said and done, just give at Braves a follow on Twitter and on Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and all that good stuff. So, just follow all those accounts. Tweet #ChopOn, and we'll be good.
Chop on. Awesome. Love it. Yeah. Love it.
Well, I said the other day I'm like a de facto Houston Astros fan because my favorite Braves catcher of all time drove in my other favorite Braves catcher.
McCann
got a hit,
I'm with
and the El Oso Blanco scored. I was like, I guess I'm an Astros fan for a couple of weeks
at least.
Absolutely, yeah. Those I still love those two guys too. So it's always I don't really have a rooting interest as far as who wins this postseason, but to see those two guys get a ring, that would be
that'd be real cool,
pretty cool. And hey, I definitely have to come back on sometime because I didn't even get into any of the stories of growing up in NASCAR, and there are plenty of them, so.
That's our bread and butter. There you go.
So our style of podcasting lends itself to long form, and because of that, I write a half a page show sheet, and we only usually do about half of it.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, how it is. So we talked on the pre-show. We'll have to have you on during the off season and talk about the NASCAR stories, Brave stories, all the stuff. This has been a nice little teaser preview episode, and I absolutely want to thank you for coming on, Ricky.
Oh, guys, this was fun. Let's definitely do it again. I appreciate it.
All right, sounds good.
Awesome.
Ricky
Thanks
Mast,
for being here.
Ladies and gentlemen. Sherwin, sometimes you just have too much content, and that's almost every week for us, that we just have too much content, and we just got to cut stuff short. But this time it was like, you know what? Screw it. We're just showing it all. I don't care. It's too much fun. We're having too much fun. This one was for us. You know what I mean? If you've hung out with us this long, thank you for being here. But, man, this is so much fun, isn't it?
Well, so I think it's okay to be selfish every now and again.
Yeah.
And I honestly, the way everything checked out and the way schedules started to line up, like we had a whole show for Ricky.
Mm-hmm.
We had a whole show for Tommy.
Yep.
Both of them needed to push to this week, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to tell either one of them no. We'll sort this out. The show may go long. I wasn't going to promise anybody on social media that we were going to do a 90-minute or 100-minute show.
Yeah.
That's what they're ultimately going to get. And we had to cut half the show sheet to do it. That's what's so cool about the way we were approaching this.
And our show sheet was, what, a page long, maybe?
Well, the one I sent you was a half a page, and I think I sent you 2 questions that came in late.
Yeah.
Thank you, Travis Campbell, and thank you, Mark Wiley. We didn't get to.
We got to Mark Wiley's.
We got to Mark. We didn't get to Frank Villat's
or Travis
Campbell's.
Yeah.
Fellas, please stay dialed in. We'll get you next week.
Yeah.
We don't know who's going to be. We don't even know what day it's going to be yet. We haven't talked about it because unfortunately our professional lives keep us really rolling the dice on what day of the week we can do this. But we wanted to give you as much as we could of the people that we love the most. Ricky's in the fold now. He's a new guy. He doesn't realize how what he's got himself roped into, but Tommy Joe certainly does.
The one thing that I like about the fact that we're, an hour and 25 minutes in right now is that we have a stranger staying that could potentially be pretty embarrassing for us. So the fact that if you have listened this long to the podcast, if you're still tuned in, you get to hear this part of it, which I'm gonna put forth something that I don't want to admit.
I'm glad you are, because I couldn't think of something that was like rated better than NC-17.
Well, I mean, we're in dark now. It's dark.
We are in dark land.
Right. So we could, you could go with whatever.
Potentially.
But Strange was staying. Ashley J. staying. She asked us, okay, so what was an oh shoot? Obviously, shoot is not the word she wrote, but what's an oh shoot moment you definitely could have done without, but your friends and family still either call you a dumbass or bring it up to remind you? And so mine, listen, y'all, I was not like a NASCAR fan at this point, but I was a sports fan, right? And I knew, ESPN is based out of where? Bristol, Connecticut, right? So I had a deep argument about the location of the Bristol Motor Speedway when I was younger.
I think I know where you're going with this.
And I was like, no, Bristol is in Connecticut. Are you a moron? With a family member who was a NASCAR fan. And so I went deep in that conversation because I was 100% convinced and knew, I knew it. Whether it was true or not, I knew it to be the case. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense, but it doesn't matter if it's true or not.
Once you've decided it's true, it's true.
Right. You know this fact.
You have a personal investment in whether or not.
And the other person is very wrong. And the other person in this case was my dad, who at the time was living in Tennessee.
Right. Pigeon Forge, Sevierville,
right. There. So I had a deep hatred. Not hatred. That's the wrong word. Deep conversation with my dad about the fact that Bristol Motor Speedway was in Bristol, Connecticut, and he was very wrong about that. And so that's what really got me onto that was when Ashley said, but your friends and family still either call you a dumbass or bring it up to remind you. and I get called out on that now that I'm a big NASCAR fan and all that.
Remember that time?
Yeah. And my dad, I'll tell my dad, hey, I'm going to Bristol this weekend. He'll say, you driving all the way up to Connecticut for that?
That's funny.
Thanks, Dad.
See, that's funny.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You just kind of have to wear that banner.
Oh, absolutely.
I think,
you just wear that. Yeah,
okay, so I did not have one to share myself that I thought was appropriate for this show, but now I do, because I think I had a very similar argument either with you or in front of you about bourbon.
Okay.
And whether or not location was required for the description. Which we now know it's not. It's all about recipe and how you age it. And I still have that argument today. And I thank you for fortifying that discussion for me. Although you do not throw it in my face on a regular basis.
I wouldn't even remember it.
Yeah.
That's
I think
the funny part.
So the funny thing is, and I'll be as vague as I possibly can, the only thing I've ever done this like was really stupid or really strange that gets thrown in my face or gets brought up on a regular basis is I absolutely could not tell the details of the story. They took place at the fraternity house probably 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And we have some very funny commentary that stemmed from that some words and language we still use today that don't embarrass me anymore, but definitely embarrassed me for the first 5 years they were slung at me. We could talk about it when we stop recording.
That sounds good.
Because it's funny. But, yeah, I mean, thank you very much, Ashley, for your continuous participation in our show. We really appreciate it.
Hey, I'm going to make you feel old for a second. Tomorrow is the 9th, is me and Serena's 9th wedding anniversary.
Shut the front door.
Right? So 9 years ago, we stood out there and got drunk as usual, and then I got married. So
tomorrow's like the 11th?
Somehow. Yep, it's the 11th.
Okay,
yep.
So I will always have awesome things to look forward to in the fall. My sister's anniversary now I'll get to look forward to on September 30th every year.
Yeah.
And 11 days later I'll get to look forward to yours.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know if we said this on the podcast, but the picture you always have talked about that you like so much from your wedding, the behind the scenes picture.
Oh yeah.
Of us all having a little sip of blackjack, and it's a black and white picture, and it's looking down on us from like 2.5 stories. All of the groomsmen for your wedding taking a sip. I told that story to all of my sisters, or my, I guess, brother-in-law's groomsmen. I was like, this is how this went. And they're like, okay, it makes sense. Now we understand your behavior.
There's three pictures on my mantle right now. One of them is all the bridesmaids just striking a pose or whatever. One of them is this like dramatic shot of me and my wife. That is like, it was the perfect shot. They did all the right things and whatnot, and we're looking to each other's eyes, blah, 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 blah. That's one that sits in the center.
That
with the spotlight. It was broad daylight, and somehow this professional photographer made it look like there's spotlight shining down on us. Really cool picture. But on the right-hand side, I mean, just as prominent as the other, not centered, but as prominent, is the picture of me in the foreground. So the picture you're describing, Sherwin, is me in the foreground.
You're like smiling at the camera.
And it's black and white, too, which is kind of cool. It's me. I'm
regal.
in the foreground, like smiling, like, hey, I'm supposed to take a picture now. Yay, it's me. And all the groomsmen, you included, and 3 other fellas are drinking out of little blackjack bottles, like not trying to hide it, but trying to hide it a little bit. You know what I mean? Have you ever been in that situation?
Only kind of trying to
You ever been in that situation where, like, we're not supposed to have liquor, but nobody cares, right? So I'm just going to kind of, like, half hide it and drink on it. And so there's 3 y'all, or 4 y'all, and it's not that... for me, it was not a candid picture because I'm like, hey, look at me. But for y'all, it was total candid. Like, y'all didn't know it was fixing to happen.
No idea.
And I'm like, oh, camera, it's a smile, yay, it's a wedding or whatnot. So those are my 3 pictures on the mantle, and one of them means more to me than the others. Don't tell Serena.
Oh, sure. No, so I looked through my sister. I mean, we're trying to close this thing out, but I looked through my sister's professional pictures, and I'm still confident, maybe overconfident, that I took the best picture of the weekend.
I saw that, yeah.
And I don't know that I got the best quality for them to blow it up, but I know my dad's going to frame it. Just happened to catch a great shot of my very beautiful sister. All you listening out there who are single, you missed out. My sister's very smart, and she's very pretty. Yep.
So let's do this, dude. Let's close it out. And if you've listened this long, you are a PETM alum. That's for sure. Thank you for joining us.
Without a doubt.
90-minute show. We have 90 minutes that we forever. This is probably going to be our longest show that we've ever done.
Maybe 116.
So, thank you everybody for joining. We have had a blast, and you know where to find us at PETM Podcast and PETMPodcast.com, and on the Instagram and on Twitter and everything else. Facebook, you know where to find us, PETM Podcast.
We make it very easy with how we've structured our social media.
PETM Podcast, you're going to find us. As always, I am Rusty Wallace at Tailgate Mayor.
And I am Andrew Sherwin at Pregame Engineer.
And as y'all heard earlier, we don't know when we're going to do it next, but you know it's going to be next week.
Yeah, we'll do one next week.
We'll talk to y'all soon. Thank you for joining.
Yeah.